Okay, guys, so it is the top of the hour, and we do have a lot of information to go through today. I promise we'll keep it as short as possible, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we cover as much as we need to. So with that being said, let me click over here on the slides so that we can kick off the presentation. Since this is a first webinar of the year, I want to check with you guys a small fact. So I'll tell you something that I've recently came across, and I want to hear your opinion. Now, in about the 1920s, the rate at which the global information available was doubling was about 20 years. So in the 1940s, we had double the amount of global information available. Now, knowing that, how often do you think the information doubles in today's world? So that was in the 1920s. How often do you think the information on a global scale doubles in today's world in the 2023? I'll give you guys a second to guess this. Come on, use the chat. 2 months, 6 months, okay. Annually, 3 years. Now, guys, you're gonna be surprised. And yes, we have Matt guessing it. So on a daily basis, every 24 hours, the amount of global information on the worldwide scale. Yes, Pavel, I'm also shocked. I was shocked when I heard this. And yes, Matt, this is insane. So that's the reason we're here today, guys. We're here today because things are changing so fast, and things are getting literally anything is so easy to become obsolete again and again and again. What you learn today, tomorrow might be actually changed all of a sudden. So something that I wanted to share with you, which is related to the content, but also on a personal note. If I may give you some advice that I've recently received is, in today's world, the people that will have the most success are people that are able to quickly learn, quickly unlearn, and relearn. So literally, you need to go through this cycle again and again and again, which is a bit frustrating, right? If you think about 20 years ago, you would learn something and you would do that in the same way almost for the rest of your life. Now, in today's world, you need to change in a blink of an eye. And we have one of our C-level members that always says, we cannot afford to be slow in today's world. And he is so right. Now, with that being said, since this is a public webinar, I need to tell you guys, because I see a lot of new names in the list of attendees, I need to tell you who is Heimdal. Well, Heimdal is a Danish-based company, that cybersecurity company that currently offers a variety of cybersecurity products. If you look at the image, we currently have 9 products and we're releasing the 10th product, which is highlighted in gold and yellow. And with these products, with this offering, we're servicing currently over 11,000 B2B customers, which is business to business, not taking in consideration the retail part. Now, since again, this is public, some of you might not know me. My name is Andrei, and I've been with Heimdal for over 4.5 years. I'm getting close to 5 years right now. My credentials here, in order to be eligible to talk to you, I have over 500 meetings in Heimdal, and this is not considering internal meetings. This is only partner meetings, customer meetings, anything cybersecurity related. I've managed to do over 5,000 already. And if you'd like to, I would love to connect on LinkedIn. If you guys want to challenge any idea of the webinar, start debates, discussions, please tag me. And you'll notice in the post-webinar form, you also have the chance to book a 15-minute meeting with me if you want to discuss anything cyber. If you want to consult on anything, just use that function and I'll be more than glad to follow up and set a meeting with you. Now, going into the agenda. We will do a short meet and greet, which we're already doing. We're going to look at the review of 2022 data, right? So that we can see what we need to do in 2023. We will also look at the trends to be aware in 2023. We will see some practical ways of making 2023 better for us and stress-free. And last but not least, we will have the Q&A as always. Now, please do remember you have the post webinar form in which you can share feedback with me, give me ideas. You can book a meeting if you wish. So a lot of things that you can do there, which are important. And also something interesting, for the most active person in the webinar session, we will give them a prize, a Heimdal Home Edition product for 1 year as a license, and this includes everything that we have in the Home Edition. So it's not just an antivirus, or it's everything. With that being said, let's look at what happened in 2022, guys. So in 2022, if we look at data coming from the Allianz Risk Barometer, we can see something very, very interesting. If you guys look at the screen, and I'll just put a laser pointer here. Okay. If we look at the screen, we see a lot of things in this particular chart. What is this chart? Well, this chart that I'm looking at right now shows what were the biggest business risks in 2022. So basically, this particular company went in the market, talked to consultants and to experts, and asked them what do they consider and what did they see as the biggest risks in 2022 for businesses, and this is overall. Now, the interesting thing is that the two that stand out the most are business interruptions and also cyber incidents, which mostly lead to business interruptions. And if we look here on the presentation, we also have some annual changes. And for the first categories, I didn't pay too much attention to, but it's important to see how these two have evolved year over year. So if you look at these two, business interruptions, we have 1% evolution. So people are fearing this, and it seems to continue to grow. And cyber incidents has a 4% evolution. So this has been in the top position last year, the year before that, and it's still in the top position. And at least my forecast is that this will remain in the top position in 2023 as well. And I actually think that this marker will change as a delta year over year with even 2 digits this year. Now, if we are to look at some more data coming from good researchers out there, we have a chart done by the national cybersecurity organizations, FBI, IMF, and so on. In this chart, we will notice that the cost of cybercrime worldwide has increased already. This is cost in trillion US dollars. And we will notice, if we look at this chart, that they're expecting until 2027 for this to double and then some, which is actually a very dire situation. However, please do not take this webinar as being a doom and gloom session, because it is not. This webinar is aimed to help everybody to have a better approach to cyber defense in 2023. Even if you choose to go with Heimdal or with another product, even with 10 products, it's not about that in this webinar. It's just about seeing what do you need to do in order to achieve this, regardless of what is your method of approach. With that being said, let's also look at another topic that has been on everybody's radar, which is ransomware in 2022. So if we look at ransomware in 2022, Cyber Edge has always does a survey. They take about 1,200 organizations worldwide. These are organizations 500 and above employees, and they ask their professionals and their CIOs, their CISOs, their IT managers, how many of them have had successful ransomware attacks in the year. So we can see the evolution. In 2018, out of these surveyed people, we had 55%. But if we look at 2020, we have 71% that have reported successful ransomware attacks. And this is not just a ransomware attempt that has failed. This is a successful attack that actually ended up with at least 1 or 2 computers encrypted in the process, which is a bit scaring. But at the same time, this is the world we're living in. So we don't need to fear anything. We just need to make sure that we do the best that we can. Now, I'm wondering, we're looking at global statistics, but what's your statistic, right? So for that, I'll just open up a poll, and I want to ask you guys, and I'm launching it right now. You should be able to see some questions on the screen. Have you felt in any way, shape, or form this increased threat state in 2022? And the answers are simple. No, we were lucky and didn't stress with cyber in 2022. No, but I have close contacts that did. Yes, we've dealt with this increased threat state. Oh yes, we actually were attacked in 2022. So I'm curious to see, out of all the people that we have in the room, which, wow, you guys are so many, I'm curious to see what's your response. What do you see? What did you feel in 2022? Okay, getting back to the screen over here so that I can see. Okay, and we're gonna give it just 10 seconds more. I'll drink some water in the meantime. It's important, stay hydrated, guys. Okay, let's close the poll and let's share the results with everybody so that you all can see what's the result. It's actually very interesting that the majority did not stress too much with cyber in 2022. I'm guessing that you guys have a very robust setup made there to protect you. We also have people on the other scale, which is good that we have just few of you guys actually having attacks in 2022, and then we have 28% didn't feel the pressure, but they had close contacts that did, and we have 26% that have been dealing with this increased stress that is out there. Thank you for sharing this. I am gonna go back to the slides right now, and you should be able to see them in a second. If you can't see the slides, or if it blocks or anything, please do shout in the chat or in the question area, and I'll get to it. Okay, now let's see what Forbes says. Forbes says in a 2022 review that Benjamin Franklin famously claimed that the only certain things in life are debt and taxes. But the cyber age compels us to add a third unfortunate, inevitable thing to the list: bigger, faster, and evolving cyber threats. And they also say that people that don't want to evolve their security posture might actually have some financial, commercial, and regulatory hustle coming their way. Now, this actually ties in a bit with the statistics we shared at the beginning of the session. Everything is changing so fast, and at the end of the day, people cannot expect companies, organizations, people at home to change their security so fast as everything does. So we actually need to find a formula that works for us and doesn't need to change overnight continuously as new attacks come in. Now, since we're still looking at 2022, let's look a bit at 2022 as a threatscape. What happened in 2022? And for the people that have been on our exclusive Heimdal user session that was last week, I promise I will not bore you with the same information. I chose different attacks, different major attacks to look at this time. Now, the first place on the map that we're going to is the British Virgin Islands. What happened in the British Virgin Islands? This is a headquarter for a cryptocurrency exchange platform, which is called Bitfinex. What happened here? Basically, nothing too much. Just hackers stealing $32 million worth of cryptocurrency. Well, I believe this is a big alert for us. So they were hacked by a phishing attack, a spear phishing attack, to one of the employees, tricking them into giving the hackers access to the company's systems and to the cryptocurrency database. So guys, a phishing attack, depending on where you work and what access do you have, can cost a lot of money. Now, moving down the line, moving a bit north and to the other coast, to San Francisco, California, we have the Twitter data breach. This has affected 5.4 million accounts that are on Twitter, which is actually something that that is not taken lightly. The hackers started by accessing the platform through a previously reported vulnerability, which is again going to one of the basics. So we had phishing, now we have a vulnerability not being patched. Now, if we look further and choose to go on a different continent, we will move to the United Kingdom. And here we have a hacker suspected by the police and actually even arrested by the police of hacking the Grand Theft Auto 6 database, which is the computer or console game that everybody knows. And this particular guy hacked it and made the code available on the dark web for sale. And yeah, and this is a company that is actually very, very strong as security, but they were still hacked. Now, the company did not give out too much information so that we can analyze the attack. So we're moving again to the US continent and again to San Francisco. It seems that San Francisco is a cluster of technology companies that are getting targeted a lot in today's world. What are we analyzing right now in San Francisco? Cash App. Have you heard of this application? This is basically a mobile application that you can send and receive money. Now, this particular data breach happened in April 2022 and affected over 8.2 million current and previous users. So even if you had an account and closed it, the registries are still there. So I hope that you guys don't have an account on Cash App, but this was even reported to the US Securities because it is actually a major event. Now, if we are to move again, we're going to go on the other coast of the United States in Maryland, where the Marriott International has its headquarters, the hotel chain. And over here, another data breach happened that affected up to 500 million guests that have their data stored with Marriott. This particular data breach included names, addresses, passport numbers, payment card information, which is very, very sensitive, right? So even the most heavily secured companies in the world still were targeted and successfully breached in 2022. Now, if we are to play again on the map, we can go to the Cayman Islands this time, where we have another cryptocurrency exchange, which is, I believe, the most famous one, called Binance. Binance had, again, a hack, a data breach, and the hacker accessed personal data of customers and obtained a large chunk of it, which is names, email addresses, and hashed passwords. But at least luckily this time, no cryptocurrency was stolen and no financial information like credit cards and all of those things, which is very, very important. Now, again, let's look at San Francisco, because it seems that a lot of companies were targeted there. We're going to have a cluster here in San Francisco. Now, we are looking at another huge technology company, which is formerly known as Facebook, currently known as Meta. So Meta was actually firing some employees for allegedly hacking into users' accounts. Now, what happened here, and this is still not 100% proven, The tech giant Meta has reportedly fired or disciplined over a dozen of employees that were actually violating Facebook's terms of service. And according to the reports, they were contracted to work as security. However, they were using a tool that's called Oops to reset access to accounts and sell that access to people that were willing to pay a lot of money. So imagine you have a Facebook account, you're a CEO, a CTO, a politician, somebody important. So these people would go to the security guard or to this group of security guards and say, okay, I want access to Andrei's Facebook account or to Michael's Facebook account or something like that. They were applying this tool called Oops on your account, and they were giving you the password to the account. Imagine you don't have two-factor authentication, which we're going to talk about in today's session. What would happen there if you don't have it? A big problem, right? Then, guys, next, still in San Francisco, I promise we have a cluster here. Dropbox experienced data breach following a phishing attack. Again, starting from phishing, with source code repositories affected. And of course, the next one, still here, we have Google's largest DDoS attack that happened in the world. So this is actually a world record so far. On June 1st, close to my birthday, which is June 3rd, Google successfully managed to defend versus a DDoS attack that was 76% larger than the previous world record. So when it comes to world records, this one came from over 5,000 IPs sourced in 132 countries across the world, and it peaked over 46 million requests per second that lasted almost 70 minutes. So this was literally the most orchestrated cyber attack, cyber DDoS attack in the world so far, which is a record. And last but not least, we have another record, which is doubling a bit with the information I've provided in the customer exclusive webinar that we had last week. This is going a bit in between North and South America, going in Central America, in Costa Rica. And guys, why do I want to talk about this one? Because this one is again a world record. It's the first time that the country in the history of the digital world has gone completely offline because they declared state of national emergency, followed by the Conti ransomware attack, which was tailored specifically to knock the country down and change the political regime, which again is something that we need to be very careful about. Now, what happened due to this? Google started to look in cybersecurity. They're partnering up with Mandiant. Cyber insurance skyrocketed as a price. New attack techniques are being studied in the Russia and Ukraine space. Wipers, programs that delete your data without even moving it somewhere or encrypting it, are starting to become very trendy. And new cyber attack records are being set all over the world. Now, you can also download the Heimdal 2023 threat report. You will see a lot of other attacks studied, a lot of malware studied. But if we go into all of that today, we will not have time to look at how do we defend versus them in 2023. And if we also look at the map, these are just 10 attacks we're looking at right now on the map. But if we look at the map, there are a lot of breaches reported globally. It's like this particular map has chickenpox right now. But we don't want to look at only doom and gloom. So let's see what are the trends in 2023, and let's see how do we defend against them. So in 2023, what we have noticed, also Heimdal and also other global companies that look at threat intelligence, we have noticed that multi-vector attacks are on the rise. This means they do not just come with one thing at you. They come first with an entry method, and then they build off of that. Off of the entry method, they do reconnaissance in your environment, and only then they deliver the final blow after they carefully study how to deliver that final blow. Then we also have malware-less attacks on the rise because everybody now has a decent security posture. So coming with malware inside your organization is no longer a solution. They're coming without malware. They're doing fileless attacks. They're doing process harvesting and so on. Then another item, vulnerabilities are still one go-to method for the attackers, because we got to admit it. If you look at just at Microsoft recently, they had a semi outage, right? Vulnerabilities are on the rise everywhere, and unfortunately, we will still have them. Okay, we do have somebody with their hand raised. Let's see. Do we have any questions, guys? Please do use the chat, use the Q&A box. We do have a Q&A time at the end, but we do want to take questions on the way as well. If you do, just put it in the box over there, and we can look at it. Now, the next one is highest number of attacks as a percentage starts from the web, because this is still the easiest place to have somebody fall into your trap. And last but not least, ransomware is still a danger, but it's the final step of a complex attack. It's not the beginning anymore. And if you think about it, it was the beginning of an attack in early stages of cyber attacks, but now ransomware is not the beginning. And you might have noticed the next webinar we have is about ransomware. Guys, I don't want to tell you how much we've struggled to find ransomware that can actually be detonated. Because in today's world, for example, a ransomware strain is built specifically for my computer, not just for my company, but for my computer, because they analyzed and did reconnaissance on my computer. So if a colleague of mine or somebody from another company gets this ransomware, it does not start on their computer, because it knows that it cannot deliver it knows that it might not be able to deliver the final blow. So this is why we still need to be very careful about ransomware. But at the same time, we need to mitigate as much of the entry points as possible, which is something that we're going to talk about. So in order for us to stay protected, we need to be able to fit a security posture that is somewhere over here in the middle, and make sure that we cover all of these points that you see over here, but at the same time, don't block all our time or all our resources, because at the end of the day, a company's purpose, an organization's purpose, is to have its business processes running and make money, right? Or deliver the service that they set out to deliver in the world, achieve their mission, not only fend off cyber attacks. But unfortunately, we are in a cyber attack pandemic right now, so we need to make sure that we do something about it. And here comes in the formula that I want to discuss with you today. This is a 5-step formula that we're looking at, and let's actually make it fun. Let's compare this to the Spartan and Persians battle, the Battle of Thermopylae, and let's see exactly how we can actually make a comparison between the two. I promise this is a fun session. Now, what's the first step to an attack? So what did the Spartans do when they saw that the threat is coming? So first of all, they had an imminent threat that they were about to face, right? The huge Persian Empire. If we compare it to today's world, we are the 300 Spartans with our computers and our defense, and the cyber crime syndicates are actually the I don't know, tens of thousands of soldiers that are coming from the Persian line, right? So the first thing they did is they mitigated possible entry points by going into that narrow path with just 300 soldiers, right? And in that way, they knew that the Persian army needed to go through that particular point rather than being able to attack from any other angle, right? So this was the first step, mitigating the entry points. Now, what did they do next? As a second step, they deployed on the last entry points a fierce and reliable security, right? Reactive security. All those soldiers with the shields and the spears and everything. Then what else did they have in the formula? They also had, they ensured reliable visibility, right? Because at the end of the day, they also needed to see what was happening over there. So they placed sentries all over the place to make sure things are evolving as they needed to. Then they made sure by their training and by all their preparation that they also have effective actionability. So they knew exactly how attacks happened. They knew how to take their soldiers back, try to heal them, right? Try to tend to their wounds, and then go back to the battlefield, right? So they were effective in actioning continuously. And last but not least, this is the step that unfortunately got the Spartans defeated in the process, but something that we will ensure that today is not the case for us. The last step that we need to make sure in this formula is to mitigate the human factor. And we all know the story, right? How it ended. One disgruntled soldier, right? Actually, it was a disgruntled Spartan that was never a soldier, actually sold them out and offered the Persians another sneaky entry point so that they can come from behind and attack the Spartan mini army, so to say, right? And this could be our disgruntled employee, or it could be a phishing attack to one of the employees, or it can be an employee that finds an Amazon gift card, USB flash drive, right? A rubber ducky, and they just put it in the computer and want to claim their gift card. The examples are countless, right? Now, this formula is nice, right? But we need to dive deeper into it so that we can understand exactly how do we apply this formula. So with that being said, let's break it down. And before we do that, I need to get some water. And please let me know, guys, any questions. I see that that you guys are paying attention to the screen. I have a little widget telling me that, but I don't see any questions so far. So tell me, how do you find the session so far? Do you have any questions? Please use the chat. I told you that the most active person will win a Heimdal home license, right? I think I did. So let's see, where's the activity? Okay, now, since I'm hydrated, let's go into the formula. Now, let's see. How do we mitigate the entry points? The first thing that we need to do, well, the first thing is we will need to secure our internet traffic. And here's why. If you look at statistics in 2023, if we see how many web attacks take place, it's one every 39 seconds, which is huge. This is the biggest and most casual way of getting some attacker in, or you getting your computer part of a botnet. So if you want, what do you do when you want to create a habit or dissolve a habit that you don't want anymore? You make it so that it's either easy for the habit to take place. Like if I want to learn guitar, I will put the guitar on its stand in the middle of the living room so that I see it every time I pass by. If I want to learn guitar and if I put the guitar in the closet, how often do you guys think I will play the guitar and learn? I would say that I will not. And this is the same if you want to dissolve a bad habit. So you need to mitigate before you actually start the process. So if you want to quit sugar, you just throw out all the sweets and you make it impossible for you to have midnight stacks when it comes to sweets. You just replace them with fruit. So that's why we need to mitigate the entry points. Internet traffic is one of the most dangerous ones, and you need to make sure that your computers, when they connect to the internet, even if they don't have any restrictions, you still have security on top of that. The next one on our list is patching the vulnerabilities. Guys, in 2023, if you look at statistics, we're actually expecting more vulnerabilities. I don't know if you remember Log4j. You might remember it, right? It was huge. But at the end of the year, another vulnerability came to our attention, which is the Aikido wiper. So I believe most of you know what this does. It takes your EDR, your defense tool, and it makes it as a weapon against you, which wipes all your computers, which is very dangerous. And this is again due to vulnerabilities found in the tools themselves. So please make sure you keep patching as a priority on your list. Now, next in the mitigation area, admin rights management. In the efforts of getting some ransomware samples so that we can show and detonate with you guys next month, actually in 1-2 weeks from now, we have noticed that over 50% of the samples did not run in case they didn't have admin rights. So getting admin rights in the attack chain is still a mandatory component for the majority of them. So if you make sure that you don't have admin rights all over the place in the computers, and that you have a secure way of getting those admin rights when you need them and giving them to your employees and to your team, that will actually mitigate, if statistics shows good, of about 93% of risks that Microsoft as a platform offers from time to time. Next on the list, because we have a long list, principle of least privilege. What does that mean? I believe a lot of you know that. The principle of least privilege says that one should have access to the resources that allow them to perform their work and nothing more over that. Because if you give somebody access to something that they don't need, they pose a threat, even if they're malintended, or even if they do it by mistake, right? So when you go to a hotel, do they give you a key card that opens all the rooms, the back doors, the staff doors? No, they just give you the key that opens your room, because that's what you need there to have a good stay. So we should apply this particular principle as much as possible and make sure our users don't have access to sensitive things. Because going back to those data breaches, right? You saw what happened with the cryptocurrency exchange. 32 million worth in cryptocurrency was stolen. I don't even know what the repercussions of that event were, but I guess they were huge. Next on our list, because again we do have a lot of them, zero trust methodology. And what does that imply? It implies trusting only items that you previously approved. So if you have software, if you have websites, if you have whatever you do want, because you can apply this to anything, before they execute or connect in your environment, you or somebody should be the ones that filter them first and approve them connecting. Before that approval happens, they should not be able to connect. And zero trust, if you look on the globe, is actually one of the biggest trends right now, and the one that is promising the most. And we still have something here, last but not least, visibility and control over software, which means you need to be able to see all the software that's installed on any computer that is a work computer. I would even go a bit further and say any computer that connects to company resources. And you should also be able to have a tracking, a logging of all the software that has been executed on these computers, because only then you can go back and find exactly which was the culprit. In some cases, the culprit is so stealthy that they don't even trigger an antivirus. They just stay there as a backdoor, as a connection portal between the attacker server and your organization. So it's very important to have this inside your tool set. Now let's also look at the fierce security that we need to deploy, the reactive security. Even Buddhist monks that are one of the most peaceful type of person, they all know martial arts, and we also need to do that. So the first thing that we need to look at in reactive security is brute force protection. And I put this in because I like the word brute force. No, guys, I actually put this in on the top of the list because it's still one of the major components to start an attack. What do they do in this brute force? They use some computing tools, some software that once they have an IP that can connect to your network, for example, my computer right now has an IP, right? This is the internet protocol it's using to connect to the internet, right? So if attackers know my IP, they can actually try to connect to my computer, and they will need my username, which is not difficult to guess, right? Because we have emails, usually they're similar, yeah, you know, but they don't know my password. So what they do is they compute a lot of passwords. And if you look at some password statistics, if you have passwords that are less than 16 characters and don't have uppercase, lowercase, symbol, even maybe some spaces, some numbers, they can guess your password in about, I would say, 8 to 12, maybe 16, 18 hours of computing passwords. But that means that each password attempt that happens should actually trigger something inside the company. Somebody should see that somebody is trying to connect, but they're failing passwords. This is basically the definition of brute forcing. They do it and they pound on the wall until they manage to get in. Now, any company in today's world, and even home computers, should have the capacity to notice that this is happening. You should notice that somebody is trying to knock on your door to tear down the wall or something like that, if they do it for 18 hours continuously, right? So this is the first item you need to have on your list when it comes to reactive security. Make sure whatever reactive security you have has this capacity. Next on our list, powerful and adaptive AV or EDR XDR, which actually they should be together, right? AV and EDR. What does that mean? If you look at the regular antiviruses, they run on two things: signature, right? They know that something is bad. If they find that something, they kick it out. Or behavior, and the modern ones run on both of them, behavior and signature, right? What does that mean? Basically, they know some behavior patterns that if they notice, they will again kick out that particular file. They will encrypt it, put it in quarantine, right? Depends on the service that you're using. But in today's world, the attackers are so advanced that they use malwareless attacks, they use IoTs to get in. So they have a lot of ways. They do lateral movement from one computer to the other until they find something that they need, or furthers their capacity to do that attack. Now, that's why, aside of being powerful, it needs to be adaptive. It needs to be very smart. It needs to have an advanced threat protection engine on top of it. And you will see a lot of them in the market. For example, Heimdal's ATP is called XTP, from Extended Threat Protection, and so on. So guys, wherever you go in the world to take one of these tools to put in your tool set, please make sure that it is powerful and adaptive. That's the only thing that's important. Again, learn quickly, unlearn quickly, relearn quickly. We just talked about it a bit earlier, right? That's the same thing that your security system needs to do as well. Going further, you need to have encryption protection. And help me out. Tell me why you need to have encryption protection. Come on, use the chat. I've been talking for a while and I don't see anybody chatting with me, and I don't know why you're not chatting with me. I actually have a lot of chats that I didn't see. My chat bar has actually frozen a bit, and I am so sorry. Ooh, okay, we have some questions here. We have Matt saying to make it difficult for data to be intercepted and read. That's good. Hello, Mahmoud. Okay, Mahmoud is just saying hello. Okay, to avoid ransomware being a successful attack. Welcome, Mahmoud. You just joined us. You'll still enjoy what we have, but you'll also be able to see the recording. And Niels, you are correct, because even in today's world, right? Even with all the security, they might still get in, unfortunately. And when they do and deploy the ransomware to encrypt your data, extort you for the money, go to your customer and tell him, hey, I have your data from your partner, and so on. You know, they do the triple extortion now. They ask you for the money versus giving you the decryption. They go and go to the dark web and threaten you by putting the data there so that it's public. And third, they go to your partners, customers, whomever is part of that data, and they ask them for money as well. And we also have Stephen coming with loss of encrypted data is not a GDPR data breach. And yeah, you're right. Okay, Gote, yes, you do not see any chat over there because I am the one that sees what you guys type in. But yeah, that's a good point. So guys, encryption protection is very important. I'll just go further because again we have a lot of items here. The last one in the aggressive, the fierce reactive security is aggressive and intelligent email security, because only out of those breaches that we looked at, the 10 breaches, 2 or 3 of them started from phishing, right? So what does this email security need to have to be intelligent and aggressive? First of all, it needs to check the links that are being inserted in the emails that you guys are receiving. And second of all, it needs to reformat the attachments. Basically, take the attachments in a sandbox, decompose them, and recompose them. And in that process, you know exactly what's in there. And of course, other bells and whistles like password protected filters, executables, stoppers, and so on. But most of them have that, right? So just make sure they have those particular elements. Next, in the visibility, we need to make sure that we have one pane of glass seeing everything in one place, because we cannot afford to look at 7 different portals, 7 different applications to be able to see what's going on, so that then we can move to the next point, which is the actionability. Then we also need to have forensic telemetry, preferably including lateral movement sensors, because if you notice lateral movement, that means that actually somebody is still in the organization's network, and then you know exactly where to go to get them out of the organization. And last but not least, your data that you see from all these cyber events needs to be easily translatable, because you need to have that enablement of fast action. If possible, and this is not a must, but it's actually good to have, you should also be able to quickly translate it into MITRE ATT&CK framework. I believe most of you know exactly who MITRE is and what they do. It's actually a framework that shows you all the possible entry points, all the possible steps 2, steps 3, and so on until the final payload. And it's important because it's made in a way that anybody could actually look at the data and be able to react from it. And we have Daniel saying something very important. How do emails validate links with SSL certificates? Because it's very hard to detect what seems real from what seems fake. And that is right, Daniel. We can actually chat about that some more, but we would need to do a full deep dive on email securities and how email security and how that works. But I do recommend shooting this question over email, and we can dive deeper. Now, when it comes to actionability, guys, now it's the time when we take action. Until now, we have strengthened our defenses. We have placed our soldiers in the correct points to be able to fend off the attacker. We made sure we have the sentries giving us the necessary visibility. Now it's time to take action. What action do we need to do? First of all, our tools that we put in place need to be able to isolate the affected machines. This action is called containment. The first thing we need to do, if let's say an epidemic outbreak happens, what's the first thing that the government does? They do a quarantine, right? They contain everything. And that means that they take the people that were infected, in our case the machines, and isolate them from everything else aside of what you need, right? Which is your remote connection into those machines, which is usually the security tool that you have. Okay, and Matt has a funny one. Not in the UK, the government first has a party and then they do the quarantine. That's a funny one, Matt. And I believe everybody from the UK had a laugh on this one. Now, the second thing that you guys need to do and your tools need to do is reinforce. Now, let's say that this is particularly an infection coming from the web or coming from a file, a process. you need to make sure that that particular thing that happened on 1 or 20 or 30 machines until you noticed it and contained it does not happen on the rest of your machines. How do you do that, right? Your tools need to be able to either intelligently by themselves or manually by your action send that particular event as a notification to everything else and tell them, if this IP tries to connect to you, you block it. If this process tries to connect, you do not allow it to connect. If this file tries to execute, you do not allow it to execute. So this is the reinforce action. And last but not least, something again very important, which should be basic hygiene, is to recover. Now, fast recovery is basically in place because you need to avoid user or process downtime. Again, we're working in businesses. Businesses need to make money or deliver the service that they set out to achieve their mission. So if we have computers down, users down, we cannot do that, and that's a problem. And now, what the Spartans didn't have, but we need to have, is the human factor. We need to enforce password strength and intelligent multi-factor authentication, meaning that if I connect right now from an IP, which is in China, and I usually connect from the UK, that should be a quick alert trigger. Even if they put in the multi-factor authentication, that should actually go to an analyst for further approval. And there are tools out there that can do that for you. Now you need to also continuously train your employees to be able to spot abnormalities. And this is not just phishing. I like it that phishing has a huge awareness trend going out right now, but there's so much more than just phishing. So you guys know it, I know it. Let's also train the employees to see everything else. You need to deploy a healthy offboarding process. People that had some access, they don't need that access anymore. And that's dangerous if you don't offboard them immediately after they're out of the company. And last but not least, you need to ensure that your staff is able to handle security, skill-wise and time-wise. This is very important. And now, guys, I'm also going to give you a small bonus. This is not necessarily a industry standard. This is my technique into applying anything I need, right? Now, this is my formula. It's a 3-pillar formula. Before I need to go and do something or achieve something, the first thing I think about is going from the end to the beginning. What do I need to achieve? What do I need to do? For example, if I need to eat in the morning, I need to eat breakfast. Okay, then the next pillar is where am I right now? What am I missing? So if I need to eat breakfast, I need eggs, I need bread, I need milk, whatever, right? And only at the end, the third pillar is how do I get that? Because if I start from the how, I usually get locked into the problem, right? Now, if you start deconstructing from where you want to go, then you see where you're at, because you cannot set sail if you don't know where you want to go and where you're currently at. And last but not least, you decide how you get there. And this final pillar, how you get there, splits into 2 sub-pillars, which is what are my resources, my advantages, and what are my challenges, my shortcomings along the way. If we look at this particular formula, if we try to apply this, we need to apply as much of the points that you see on this particular screen, right? Why? Because we need to strengthen our security. This is the first thing. And we do it because we currently need to evaluate where we're at, right? We need to see what's missing from this particular formula in our organization. How do we apply it? If we apply it by the regular method in deploying for small organizations 4 to 6 to 10 tools, or for big organizations that deploy even 30, 40 tools to achieve all of this, it's going to be a hassle for our computer, right? And that's why we need to think from a divergent standpoint to be very destructive. Why do I need 30 tools? Why do I need 10 tools? So we actually need to think about unification. And it's not just me saying it, it's not just Heimdal saying it, it's also Gartner saying it. So again, think where you need to go, analyze and determine where you're at in this particular moment. And last but not least, the third step is how do you get there? And with that being said, moving further, I just want to say that it's easy to unify these 4 parts, right? The first 4 parts. The mitigation of the human factor, that's an ongoing process. But that's also important because any defense is as strong as its weakest link. So please be careful with that one. But in this one, there are a lot of vendors out there that can actually, there are a few vendors out there that can help you, Heimdal being one of them. And just to point out the things that we could do for you with one agent, one console, and with as less hassle as possible, less config time, and so on. All these points that are now highlighted, you can see we can help you with them. Other vendors can help you with them. We can help you with them. You can go in with 10 vendors, with 1. It's your decision. The only thing that I ask you is make sure you apply as much as you can out of this particular formula. Take a screenshot. This video will be on YouTube, so you can have access to it. Now, 5 key takeaways so that we can get to the Q&A because we have a lot of questions in the chat. The first takeaway, cyber incidents are still the biggest risk for businesses, and the cost of cybercrime is increasing exponentially. Second takeaway, in 2023 and also in years to come, things will change. Cyber attackers are getting bolder and their attacks are getting more and more sophisticated. Conclusion number 3, your defense, cyber or any other type of defense, is as strong as its weakest link. So let's strengthen that. Conclusion number 4, don't fall for fear mongering. If you look at Newton's third law, if a force exerts, if an object A exerts a force, it's a law of physics that an opposite object B, exerts the same force from an opposite angle. So don't let people fearmonger you. Even if cybercrime is evolving, cyber security is also evolving, and applying as much as you can from this formula will actually help you to not fall for this fear-mongering that people are doing. And last but not least, the formula to a better defense is complex, but if we are disruptive and find the most effective solution to apply it, we will have a good time with it. If we follow the industry path and the maze that the people paint for us, we might have a bit of a hassle in applying or deploying this. Now, the download section, the handout section, has 2 documents. The data sheet for our overall holistic, intelligent, unified security, and also the threat hunting and action center, which is a product that we're releasing very soon. Please download them, check them out. You'll find a lot of valuable information. And of course, the next webinar that we have, you have the information in the chat, is Detonating Ransomware Live. It's going to be an amazing session. We're going to look at what ransomware does. We're going to encrypt computers in front of you so that you can see how this happens. Maybe you're lucky enough to have that as a personal experience. You can just see it from our place. Okay, and now for the Q&A section. Again, guys, please remember you have a post-webinar form. You can share feedback with me. You can challenge me on LinkedIn, on email. You can book a 15-minute meeting with me. You can book a demo meeting, right? So please use that webinar form. It's actually super helpful for me, and it was designed to be helpful for you too as well. Let's see some questions. Okay, let's see. What questions do we have here? Automated patching or manual patching? Automate as much as possible from your patching. Manual patching means you need to spend time on it. Time on it means you need people to do that, right? Automate as much as possible, have people just overview what has happened. Okay, so we touched on the patching one. Let's see. What else do we have here? Does Heimdal have a ZTNA agent? Okay, Luke, could you please tell us what a ZTNA agent is? I don't want to guess right now. So if you could tell us, that would be great. Matt says, test patches first though. Matt, you're spot on. So guys, when you do patching, this is a short one. And I promise I'll stay a few minutes over if you still want to have questions. When you do patches, you should have a test unit. So if you have 30 departments in your company, have 30 30 test units, right? Now that means one computer from the department or a copy of a computer from the department configured the same with the regular computer. Have patches apply first moment on those machines, check those machines as soon as patches have been applied, and only then deliver them to the rest of your organization. A failed patch, and we had some experience right in the past with Microsoft and third party, can actually cause your entire computer estate to be down. And we know that. We know print nightmare, we know all of those things. We don't need to go back again. So Luke came back and said zero trust network agent. So Luke, we do have a tool that can help you with zero trust on the network. We have the DNS for the network layer. You can block whatever you want, right? And then unblock what you want your company to connect to. Okay, and we have Steven saying, I thought Heimdal patches were tested prior to release. Good one, Steven. We do test them, but these are the third-party patches that we test. We take them, we analyze them for malware, for backdoor, versus a database of over 30 security providers, not just our own intelligence, and only then we make it available for you. But what about the Microsoft patches? We can't do that with those. So with that being said, you still need to make sure things are tested on your side. And also with a patch that doesn't have malware and doesn't break anything in our testing. Maybe you have some custom software, maybe some old legacy software for some hardware machines, whatever, and an update of Java on your side might break that process. So you need to make sure that even the cascading updates and things that are affected down the line don't get affected. Even if we test the patches, and we do, you're spot on that one. So guys, any last questions that we have? DNS security versus a regular web filtering. Well, that's a topic of conversation, right? Regular web filtering just blocks things based on some keywords, right? Some key categories or content. But DNS security actually takes it further. DNS security will make sure that whatever you access is not known infected or newly infected. And we do that through the databases, and we also do that through the AI component on the DNS. Again, if you want to dive deeper in that one, please make sure that you reach out to me and we can talk. And now we have the last question. We are now having in the 11th region inquiries for NDR and MDR. Okay, so network detection and response and managed detection and response delivered directly from the vendor. Is this available now? Yes, it is. So at least from Heimdal, we have a SOC team based on XDR, and they can look at network detection and response. They can look at endpoint detection and response. They can look at both of them together, and they will leverage everything that Heimdal has to apply the service. So Mahmoud, you can just connect with me. You have the button in the form. Put a 15-minute meetings. We can talk about it, or a demo directly. Okay, and we have people saying it was a good session. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. And the parallel between the Battle of Thermopylae and the 300 Spartans was excellent. Greetings from Greece, greetings Yolanda, and I'm glad that you like it. So guys, I need to end the session. If any one of you want to go through this again in a few hours, we're gonna meet again at 3 p.m. GMT, doing the same thing and with the same energy, again, a live session. Thanks guys, have a nice one. Goodbye everybody.